I've been driving the I-80 corridor for 11 years. Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, the triangle of nowhere that most people only see from 30,000 feet. I know these roads the way I know my own kitchen. Every crack, every overpass, every diner that's been closed since 2009, but still has the neon sign blinking because nobody bothered to cut the power. I know when something is wrong before I can explain why. That night, something was wrong before I crossed the California border. It started small. The air in the cab felt thick, not hot, just resistant, like the kind of pressure you feel in your ears when a storm is building. I cracked the window. Desert air in November should bite, should smell like alkali dust and cold rock. Instead, it smelled like nothing, not clean, nothing, like the smell had been removed. I told myself it was fatigue. I'd been on the road 14 hours. My thermos was empty. My eyes were doing that slow sandpaper drag every time I blinked, and the yellow lines were starting to strobe in a way that meant I needed to stop. But the next truck stop was 60 miles out, and I was already behind schedule. So I drove. The music helped for a while. Classic rock, the kind with enough guitar noise to keep your spine from going slack. I had the volume up, one hand loose on the wheel, watching the mile markers tick past in the headlights. 388, 389, 390. The road was dead straight, flat as a table. Nothing on either side but scrub brush and the occasional Joshua tree frozen in shapes that looked vaguely like people if you let your eyes go soft. I didn't let my eyes go soft. At mile marker 393, I glanced at my odometer out of habit, the kind of check you do without thinking, the way you check your mirrors, just routine. The number read 1,847,226. I remember it clearly because I'd been watching it tick toward 1,847,500, a little milestone I'd been tracking. I looked back at the road. I looked back at the odometer 15 minutes later, 1,847,226. I blinked, leaned forward, checked the GPS. It showed me moving, the little blue arrow crawling northeast at 67 miles per hour. The fuel gauge had dropped a quarter inch since my last check. The engine sounded the same. The tires hummed the same. The mile markers were still counting. 394, 395, 396, blinking past in the headlights like nothing was wrong. But my truck believed I hadn't moved in 15 minutes. I told myself the sensor was glitching. Old trucks do that. Odometers stick, speedometers lie. The instrument cluster on a rig this age is about as reliable as a gas station horoscope. I knocked the dashboard with the heel of my palm, a mechanic's instinct, and watched the numbers. Nothing changed. 20 minutes. 1,847,226. I noticed I was gripping the wheel harder than I needed to. My knuckles had gone pale. I made myself loosen my fingers, one by one, and took a slow breath through my nose. The air still smelled like nothing. It was around mile marker 399 when the CB crackled. Truckers don't use CB the way they used to. Mostly it's just static, and the occasional lot lizard warning near big rest stops. I keep mine on out of habit. Same reason I know these roads. Same reason I check the odometer. Habit is a form of control. You do the small things right so the big things stay manageable. The voice that came through was not a voice I recognized. It was a man, and he was trying very hard to sound calm, and he was failing. Same stretch. I swear to God it's the same stretch. I've passed this dead tree 4 times. There's a crack in the asphalt shaped like a Y. Right lane. 40 feet past mile marker 396. I've counted it 4 times. Whatever this is, I reached for the handset. He kept talking, faster now. Don't understand. The GPS says I'm moving. The fuel is going. But I keep passing the same dead Joshua tree on the right shoulder, I said. The static changed texture. Not louder, not quieter, just different, thicker, like something had leaned against the signal. Then his voice came back, different from before, slower, more careful. Don't answer me. I frowned. You're breaking up. What's your whatever you do? A pause, long enough that I thought the signal had dropped. Don't let it know you can hear it. The static swallowed him whole. I sat with the handset in my hand for a long moment, staring at the windshield. Mile marker 401, 402. The road kept coming. The same flat nothing, the same scrub brush, and then, there, 30 feet ahead, catching the edge of my headlights, a crack in the asphalt. Right lane, shaped like a Y. My foot came off the accelerator without me telling it to. I passed the crack slowly enough to see it clearly, to count the branches, to notice that the concrete around it was the same dull gray as the concrete I'd been watching for the last hour. And then, maybe 200 feet later, the dead Joshua tree. Right shoulder, bent at the waist like something exhausted. 3 main limbs, one broken and hanging at an angle that looked almost like a pointing finger. I had not seen that tree before. I was certain I had not seen that tree before. But I was also certain, with a cold and terrible clarity that started in my sternum and radiated outward, that I was going to see it again. I reached for the CB handset. I don't know why. I know why I told myself to call for help, to report a possible breakdown, to do the normal human thing that normal humans do. But underneath that, somewhere in the part of the brain that is older than language, I think I reached for it because I wanted something to hear me, because the silence in the cab had become a specific kind of silence, and I needed to break it. I keyed the mic. This is westbound, I-80. Around mile marker 402, I've got a situation. Anyone on channel? Nothing. Then, right at the edge of the signal, barely audible beneath the static, something exhaled. Not a word, not a voice, just a breath. Long, slow, and close enough that I pulled the handset away from my ear and stared at it. The odometer read 1,847,226. I put the handset down very carefully. In the right lane, 30 feet ahead, there was a crack in the asphalt shaped like a Y. I quit long haul 3 weeks later. Sold the rig. Took a local job. Day shifts only. I don't drive at night anymore. And when people ask me why, I just say I got tired of the road, which is true. I got very, very tired of it. But here's the thing I haven't told anyone. The last 2 nights, I've been waking up at 3 a.m. Not from a nightmare, just awake, the way you get when something in the room changes. And when I lie there in the dark of my apartment, in a city 400 miles from the Nevada desert, I can hear it. Not loud, almost below the threshold of sound. A low, slow exhalation, like something that learned my frequency and has been looking for me ever since. You felt that, didn't you? That's why this channel exists. If you want more of this, subscribe right now and hit the bell. New horror drops every week, and some of it you will not see coming. The next story is still ahead. Stay with us. I've been driving long haul for 19 years. I-40 west, Barstow to Albuquerque. Albuquerque back to Memphis. Same asphalt, same white noise, same coffee that tastes like it was brewed sometime during the previous administration. After enough years behind the wheel, the highway stops feeling like a place and starts feeling like a condition. Something that happens to you, not somewhere you go. I know every mile marker between Oklahoma City and Flagstaff, the way other men know their own handwriting. I know which rest stops have the busted soap dispensers, which diners keep the eggs warm under a heat lamp until they turn rubbery and gray, which stretches of road get the kind of fog that shows up fast and settles low and makes the headlights bounce back at you like you're driving into a wall of white wool. I know this road. I trusted this road. That night was a late October run. Solo load, no co-driver, just me and 42,000 pounds of restaurant equipment heading west out of Nashville. The cab smelled like stale thermos coffee and the pine tree air freshener that had stopped smelling like pine about 3 weeks prior. Rain had been hitting the windshield since Cookeville, not the dramatic kind, just the thin, persistent kind that makes the wipers drag and squeal and never quite clear the glass all the way. I had the radio on low, some AM station out of Knoxville playing old country, signal fading in and out. Hank Williams, then static, then Hank Williams again. I remember thinking, somewhere around mile 198, that I needed to stop at the next rest area. Not because I was tired, just because the cab felt, and I know how this sounds, too quiet, not silent. The rain was there, the engine, the road. But underneath all of it, there was a quality to the quiet that I didn't like, the kind of quiet that has weight to it. I turned the radio up a little and told myself it was nothing. That was around 2:10 a.m. I saw her at mile 212. She was standing on the shoulder, just past a green reflector post, facing the oncoming lane, rain-soaked, completely still, holding a piece of cardboard torn from what looked like a moving box. One word on it in black marker, thick and deliberate: home. Every veteran trucker knows the rule. You do not stop after 2 a.m. Not for anyone. The road attracts desperate people at that hour, and desperate people in the dark on an empty highway represent a category of risk that no dispatcher, no company policy, and no insurance form has ever adequately described. You keep moving. You call it in if you have to. You do not stop. I stopped. I don't fully know why. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was the way she was standing. Not frantic, not waving, not performing distress the way someone running a scam would. Just standing, patient, like she'd been there a while and had decided that was fine. I told myself she looked young looked harmless, looked like someone's daughter, and I pulled the rig onto the shoulder about 20 yards ahead of her and waited. She climbed up on the passenger side, closed the door softly, and sat with her hands folded in her lap. She was dressed in light clothes for the weather, jeans, a pale blue blouse, nothing waterproof, but she didn't seem cold, didn't shiver, didn't wring out her hair or breathe on her hands. She just sat there and looked at the road ahead. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was low and even. "Where are you headed?" I asked. "Exit 241. She paused. "I know where to go from there." I nodded and pulled back onto the highway. She didn't make small talk, didn't ask my name or offer hers. Sat with that same patient stillness she'd had on the shoulder, eyes forward. I noticed she wasn't wearing a seatbelt and almost said something, then didn't. There was something about her that made ordinary social corrections feel out of place, like telling someone to wipe their feet in a burning building. The smell hit me around mile 220, subtle, something beneath the pine freshener and the coffee and the wet road smell bleeding in around the door seals. Something scorched, not like cigarettes, deeper than that, like fabric that's been too close to a flame for too long, or hair, or I couldn't pin it exactly, and trying to make my stomach move in a way I didn't enjoy, so I stopped trying. "You been out here long?" I asked, mostly to hear my own voice. "A while," she said. I glanced at her in my peripheral vision. She was looking out the passenger window now, watching the dark fields sliding past. The rain was easing off. In the glow of the dash lights, her reflection in the glass looked wrong in a way I couldn't immediately identify. Slightly too dark, slightly too still, like a photograph of a person rather than a person. I looked back at the road. My hands were tight on the wheel. I noticed that and tried to relax them and found I couldn't, not all the way. Some part of my body had registered something that my brain was still constructing a reasonable explanation for. My heart rate had bumped up maybe 15 beats per minute and was staying there, that low-grade elevated rhythm that sits in your chest like a marble rolling in a jar. "She's just quiet," I told myself. Some people are quiet. You're tired and it's 2 a.m. and you've been alone in this cab for 6 hours, and everything feels strange at 2 a.m. That's all this is. Exit 241 came up. I signaled, slowed, took the ramp down to the county road below. Flat farmland on both sides. No lights anywhere. Not a house, not a barn, not a grain elevator. Just dark fields and the hiss of wet asphalt and the last of the rain tapping on the roof. "Pull over here," she said. I pulled over. She pointed out her window at a gap in the tree line, about 40 yards off the road. Complete darkness beyond it. No gravel drive, no mailbox, no fence line suggesting property or boundary. "My house is just through there," she said. I looked at that gap for a long moment. There was nothing through there. I knew there was nothing through there the way you know certain things in your body before your mind finishes the sentence. "I can try to find a closer..." "This is fine." She unbuckled, and I heard the click of it loud in the silence, and opened the door. "Thank you for the ride." "I don't see any lights," I said. My voice came out lower than I meant it to. She looked at me for the first time since she'd gotten in. Her eyes were dark and very calm, and there was something in them I still don't have a word for. Not sadness exactly. More like the expression you'd expect on someone watching a child stack blocks, knowing the stack is going to fall, not wanting to be the one to say so. "I don't need them," she said. She stepped down from the cab and walked toward that gap in the tree line. I watched in the driver's side mirror. The rain had stopped completely. She crossed the gravel shoulder, stepped into the grass. I watched her walk. I watched the darkness receive her, and somewhere around the 10-foot mark, maybe 12, maybe less, she was gone, not hidden, not far enough away to lose in the dark, just gone, between one step and the next. I sat there for a while. I don't know how long. Long enough that the engine idling started to sound abnormally loud. I pulled back onto the road. 40 minutes later, I was at the Flying J, off exit 280, with a cup of coffee I couldn't taste. A Putnam County Sheriff's cruiser was parked 3 spots down. The deputy came over around 3:40, knocked on my window, apologetic, running a routine check on vehicles through the area. Then he held up his phone. A woman, dark hair, light blouse. The photo was a few years old, but I knew the face. I had been sitting 18 inches from that face for the better part of an hour. "You seen her?" he asked. "She's been missing. Car accident on I-40 about 6 years back. Family still checks in every year around the anniversary. Accident was at mile 212. I told him I hadn't seen anyone. I don't know why. I still don't know why. I finished the run, delivered the load, filed my hours, drove home and slept for 11 hours and woke up and didn't tell anyone. That was 8 months ago. I haven't taken the I-40 run since. Told dispatch I need different routes for a while. Personal reasons. Left it at that. Most nights it's fine. But some nights I wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. to the sound of a door closing softly, the careful, considerate sound of someone trying not to wake you, and the cab is dark, and my heart is doing that marble in a jar roll, and the air in the room smells faintly of something burnt, and I lie there, and I don't move, and I think about what she said when I told her I couldn't see any lights. I don't need them, and I wonder if she meant the lights at the house, or mine. You made it through, creepy soul. Most don't stick around when the dark gets this specific. Drop a comment. Just tell us the one moment that got you. You'll know which one. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who thinks they don't scare easily. We'll be back soon with something that should have stayed buried. It won't. Stay close, and try not to think too hard about what's behind you right now. You're almost certainly alone. Almost.